Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about why the upcoming pattern may immensely impact the December, or really just the long range, and we will just be discussing about the temperatures, the 2-meter temperature anomalies, the 2-meter temperature shaded, what the Climate Prediction Center thinks about this, and why this will be so impactful. So before we get into this video, consider subscribing to this channel, consider liking this video. It really means a lot to me and it really helps this channel grow, so really consider doing that. So that really means a lot, so I thank you for doing that. Right now we're looking at the GFS model run, and we have that big storm that has been occurring, or has formed across the U.S. and right now it's developing pretty rapidly. And it's a pretty big storm. The winds will be pretty intense. It's the biggest warm up the Midwest has really seen in a couple of weeks. And notice not that much snow with it, though quite a bit when it moves into Canada. And we start seeing a little bit of, you could see a cold air trying to come in, but the weird pattern, that weird feature I'm talking about is this cold air that will be just troughing into the U.S. Notice these blue colors here. So that is the 540 line, and notice how far it gets into southern U.S. very far south. And the reason this impacts the U.S. very greatly is, well, basically there is gonna be a negative PNA, so there will be a negative PNA pattern. Now you may be wondering, what does a negative PNA mean? Well, first of all, let me show you the negative PNA. Right there you can see developing around Thanksgiving time goes pretty darn into the negatives, and that is going to be a really driving factor in terms of our weather. So notice how the PNA is basically when it's especially cold across the northwest and just the western U.S., and that's what we've been noticing. However, it's warmer across the east coast. Notice the 8 to 14 day outlook represents that it's cold across the west and the parts of the northern U.S. and warmer across the east. The 6 to 10 day outlook representing that very well as well. Notice just blue colors for the west rather than the eastern U.S. So what does that mean for the rest of the United States? Well, first of all, it means very heavy snow for the west, and the ski resorts will be happy with this one. But the eastern, or I should say, yeah, the eastern U.S. won't miss out on this either. So basically, let me quickly draw this out. What we have here, as you saw in that drawing, we have cold temperatures across this portion of the country, and a jet stream swoops out like this, allowing the warmer air to kind of filter in and come in here, or a little bit further to the north than it typically would. So when a storm system, tracks, I guess, around this jet stream, it doesn't really track through this that well. Some moisture does make it through, and that, depends, because this jet stream will not be just stable. It will be fluctuating back and forth, so a lot of snow does get into the west. However, one of these storm systems, this is just, one example of when the jet stream could be positioned at this position. It comes through and ejects itself way out here, and the thing is, it could tap into some of this colder air up here, and it could also tap into this warmer air, which was again driven a little bit further to the north than normal, and then this could enhance the storms to be really strong and bring heavy snow to these portions of the the northern portions of the United States, despite not being awfully too cold. I mean, it's December, or this will be late November, December, so we don't technically need really cold temperatures to see snow across the northern U.S. It could technically still be above average, and we could be looking at snow across the northern U.S. as if your average is 30 and you see 35 degree temperatures, 5 degrees above average, still cold enough for snow. So notice this is kind of that first system, that pioneer right here. Out of that, notice it takes that trajectory out of the southwest, and it zooms off to the north and east. Notice that. Let's put this into motion. This is the GFS. Look at that. Just a perfect example of what this could do. This system does not tap into the moisture of the southern U.S. too well, but it definitely sets the stage for more systems. As you can see, here's another one occurring over the weekend. We see yet another one on Tuesday. You can see 992. Pretty strong system. The European and GFS have been going back and forth on this system. We'll have to see what exactly happens. This is now Tuesday and Wednesday time frame, and notice quite a bit of heavy snow across Wisconsin, Michigan, into Illinois, and Indiana and Michigan. But that's again one of those systems that takes that trajectory from the southwest into the northeast, or towards the northeast. And the cold air, it won't be a classic PNA pattern where it's just reserved to the west and that's it. It will spill out at times into the eastern US, which is for the good, I guess, because then you have a higher chance of seeing some snow. Now this is where things get even more interesting, as there could be a massive storm around Thanksgiving time with this beast. I mean, this thing could be a monster. However, right now you can see the GFS has really weakened this system and is not showing what it was earlier. I mean, it's a whole different story. It's more of a series of smaller systems. You can see right there's another one. It's still going from the southwest to the northeast, and then there could be a possible another one right there out ahead of a cold front. But I mean, let's look at a couple model runs back, and let's look at this beast it was showing. I mean, it was showing a monster. Very heavy snow, just a classic tapping into the Gulf of Mexico, bringing loads of moisture up north. Now it's a completely different story. What it is still showing, the newer model runs, is a very cold air that could possibly come behind us in around early December, which could actually break the PNA pattern and become more of a NAO negative, and it could really just bring cold conditions into the general US. I mean, across much of the country. You'll notice it's just at first the 2-meter temperature anomalies. It tells us basically where it's above and below average. Warmer in the east, colder in the west. We're out ahead of the storm, and then look, it just spills out into the rest of the country. I mean, look at this. At this point, if this were to be correct, this would be, like 95% of the country would be below average. And if we look at the 18Z Wednesday, which was a little bit later on, very similar scenario. You can see colder temperatures across the majority of the country extending into December, which could set the stage for a snowy and cold December, which previously was thought to be not as likely. You'll now notice that the newest GFS is also advertising some of that cold air to be really making it into the country right there. But the thing is, that this one, the 00Z, is now not showing that big snowstorm, but it is still showing the majority of that cold air still diving into the US, which, I'm just saying, this is December, so the 2-meter temperature shaded will be cold. It won't be, even if it's above average, it won't be a heat wave. It's just that where it will be below average, it will be just downright chilly. I mean, you can see the northern central portion of the country into the teens and single digits. That's pretty cold. Not record-breaking, but that's cold, especially for December, early December, late November. Notice southeast may be pretty warm, but I think eventually the cold air will spill into those locations as well. Canadian model, things are looking fairly similar with the Canadian. Let's look at the Canadian, what it's showing. So let's quickly run this through. I actually am seeing this for the first time. I want to see what it does with that smaller system. Okay, so this is that Thanksgiving storm, that Wednesday time frame. You can see it does a completely different setup. Doesn't really do what the European or GFS does, which is interesting. We'll just have to wait and see, and it starts setting up a second system across early Friday, which the models now have been going a little bit more. So see, this is a weird thing. So at the beginning, they were more kind of centralized on a certain path. There was going to be a storm around the Wednesday-Tuesday time frame, or Tuesday-Wednesday time frame, and there was going to be another storm around the Friday-Saturday time frame. Now the GFS is still showing 2 storms, but one is stronger than the other, even though it was originally showing the second one to be stronger. Now it's showing the first one to be stronger. The European is showing a similar thing, but it is backed up on the first system and is more showing. Guys, it's really confusing at this point. This is why I'll not be making a video on, about a singular snowstorm anytime soon, until this really just decides to make up its mind. I mean, things are a little bit confusing at this point. A good thing we could look at is the anomalies, or the ensembles for the 2-meter, for the temperatures, and let's look at this. So again, kind of an on and off pattern. We get a little bit of warm air and coming to the east, a little bit of cold air, but generally towards the long range, we start seeing more and more cold air across just the majority of the country, maybe excluding the southeast the most, but I think eventually we'll get down there as well, and those colors will be intensifying pretty rapidly. These anomalies, which would indicate more below average temperatures, which would indicate colder temperatures. So again, I already showed you the 6 to 10 day outlook. Notice that this is from the 26th to the 30th of November, so around that Thanksgiving time frame. The eastern U.S. and basically the eastern coast will be warmer, while the western U.S. is below average. If you look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, you can see the cold air kind of spills its way a little bit further east, but generally centered across the west. Which, I mean, I could show you some of these snowfall amounts. They're going to be ridiculous. So sorry about those notifications. Sometimes I just get a whole spamming of them. I want to show you the GFS. I can show you the European afterwards as well. I mean, if you live in the mountainous northwest and you're either suffering from a snow drought or any of that sort, holy cow, guys! The absolute, I mean, it's just gonna be ridiculous amounts of snow are heading towards your location. I mean, seriously, there's just gonna be massive amounts, up to, you'll notice right there, southern Colorado 40-50 inches, Washington, Oregon 30-20, ridiculous amounts for the northwest, which or end of just west, really. You'll notice that even the southern U.S. Western U.S. gets in on this. I mean, just absolutely a ultimate frenzy of snow for them. And this will again represent kind of the pattern for the rest of the U.S. as well. Very active. Let's look at the new snow for the European next 10 days. You'll notice it shows again, maybe not as impressive, but still locations getting up to 30-40 inches of snow. Overall, the theme is things will be active and snowy. And notice that even portions like Portland, Oregon, may be seeing a little bit of snow at this. This model advertises up to 1 inch, 2 inches. Seattle, not seeing much out of this one, but the mountains to the east will be seeing quite a good dose. And overall, just looking active. So winter is not even on its way. Winter has set in, and things are looking active. So consider, guys, subscribing. Consider liking the video. If you like this video, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya.